Hi. All right, so we have 3 discussion questions for Ansel Dua's piece to discuss. Before I talk about those questions and you get started on them, I want to say a little bit about the purpose, audience, and project of Ansel Dua. So essentially, at the heart of this piece, Ansel Dua is aiming to explore the relationship between language and identity. Specifically, when we get into the classroom, the composition classroom, students are asked to speak in one language and one dialect of that language, right? Standard English. Any other dialects or languages, students are told leave at home, right? And that's something that's just kind of expected, that we're used to in school, right? And so she's talking about, in this piece, what is at stake when we ask students to abandon their native tongue, right? She talks about that the link between language and identity is so strong that there are real consequences for this. And so that's some of the stuff that you're going to be unpacking in the discussion questions that I'll be following up with in my response. Another important part of this piece is her audience. What makes this piece stand out amongst the scholarship is linguistically how the linguistic method and rhetorical mode that Ansel Dua is working in, right? So depending on your background of Spanish, you might have felt left out or excluded, or just not really, didn't know really what to do with some of the language and dialects that you encountered while reading this. So one of the questions gets at why, tell me how you felt as a reader. But one thing I want to say about her audience, essentially anyone who has felt on the outskirts of the dominant or privileged culture on the borderlands between 2 different cultures, who they're used to the feelings of being excluded from a text, right? This text is definitely reaching out to anybody who can identify with being in a marginalized group, as well as anybody who cannot, right? The reader who this is their first time that they were excluded from a text because school is written and spoken in the dialect that is very close to their native tongue. She also created this rhetorical effect for that reader to step into the shoes of the other as well. Okay, so the first question that you're going to respond to, as a reader, how did you react when you first encountered the Spanish passages? Why do you think Ansel Dua did this? What was her purpose for only partial translations? So refer back to the text. Again, especially if you didn't pick up on that the first time, spend some time thinking through that before you write. We're just looking for initial responses for this question. I'm going to go through the other 2 questions and then end the video so you can respond. The second question, I would like you to respond to this quote. It says, "I will no longer be made to feel ashamed of existing. I will have my voice, Indian, Spanish, white. I will have my serpent's tongue, my woman's voice, my sexual voice, my poet's voice." All right, so in the piece, Ansel Dua speaks almost casually about having her voice, not a single authentic voice, one that she names in these terms: Indian, Spanish, white, woman, lesbian, poet. And thinking of those terms and the way she categorizes, what would be the identities that make up your voice? So give descriptions of them as well as the identity category it would fall in. Just initial responses for this as well. And then the last question, what does voice have to do with issues students might face in first-year composition? All right, so in thinking of this is in context of a course that explores composition as a subject and goes over a variety of issues that students encounter in first-year comp courses, what does this piece have to do with that? And what's been your experience with voice when it comes to writing for school? Meaning, what have you been told? Do you feel that your voice has been welcomed, excluded? Thinking about secondary, or if you're transferring from a community college, prior experiences is what we're looking for. And for this one, in addition to initial thread, also respond to two other classmates, okay? And we're going to be continuing this through responding to each other, and I'm going to be jumping in these conversations as well.